Getting closer and closer by the day. The Golden Knights about to begin their fourth season in the NHL. It comes just 2 nights from now at T-Mobile Arena, of course, but right now you're looking at City National Arena and the Golden Knights training camp continuing here at CNA. But as we said, as the days go by, closer to opening the season against the Anaheim Ducks. But the Golden Knights, who had a scrimmage on, Saturday at T-Mobile, took yesterday off, and now here we are back on Tuesday at CNA. And Dave Goucher along with Gary Lawless. And Gary, let's get this out of the way. If you want to win our hearts, free food is the way to do it. And here it is from Raising Cane's. This is the way to do it. Some great stuff here, some lemonade, some sweet tea. We've got some extra Cane's sauce, of course. 13 locations here in Vegas. This is some fantastic stuff. Did you sample?
I had a.
Did you not?
You and Shane have me on a very strict diet, which isn't working. But I sampled one of the chicken tenders, and it was delicious.
A chicken tender, that's great. 13 locations here in Vegas. Great chicken tenders. We've got a whole smorgasbord of food here.
The combo box.
Thank you to our friends at Raising Cane's. Great stuff, and of course our training camp bulletin brought to you by NextGen. All right, Lawman. So we're getting closer to the season opener. What do you got? What do you got on your plate?
Well, this should be, I think, Gordo, our social media maven.
Maven's a stretch.
He's been running a different player in his number. Like yesterday, I think was Braden McNabb Day, 3 days away. So today is Zach Whitecloud Day, 2. But there's no number 1 for the Golden Knights. So tomorrow should be Todd Pollock Day because he's employee number 1.
Doesn't he have the VGK plate number 1, like 0001?
I don't know. I don't want. Why don't you give his address away too, Dave?
Here's his bank account info.
Todd Pollock is the vice president of ticketing for the Vegas Golden Knights, and he's one of our favorite guys. He is.
He's fine.
Well, his office has all the good wine and all the good bourbon and all the good vodka and the booze. His office has all
if you'd like some different.
Yes.
Some different sauce, not this sauce. That's the way to go.
We don't really have wild office parties. Like it's not the set of Mad Men around around Gold Knights headquarters. If it were, Todd would be popular.
Yep. But
anyways,
he's marginally popular.
Tomorrow will be Todd Pollock Day.
There
One day away from
0001
from the return to hockey.
1 day to go. Can't come fast enough. Of course, the league starts tomorrow. There's some games tomorrow, including a triple header. But for the VGK, the 56-game schedule starts on Thursday. All right, Gary.
Well, hold on. We can't jump away from that because, people need to know that they can see you and Shane.
Yes. From
their perch at T-Mobile Arena. Darren and Mike McKenna from their perch up in 119. I'll pop in there for a little Lawless in order. Stormy Buonantoni, rinkside reporter. It'll be a little different for Stormy. Yeah. She won't be on the bench, I don't believe, but she'll be in some different locations. Dan Duva and myself on the radio, and I'm sure that there's a ton of great content. Gordo and the social media team, they'll be ready to roll. There's lots of good stuff. So I'm excited.
Let me ask you, how many people you run into that say, I just can't wait to see games or listen to games or have some semblance of Golden Knights games?
Well, it's I was listening to NHL radio on the way in today, and Mike Johnson was on, and I texted him about a couple of things he was talking about. We had a little exchange, and then just out of nowhere, one of his texts was, "Can't you wait to start?" And it's like I was. I think I said this to you recently on one of our streams that the women at the Lawless house are a lot happier than normal because the grumpy Gus is kind of in a much better spirits.
Can't you go somewhere, anywhere but here?
Well, we were just waxing poetic about Garden City. Garden City is a little area on Long Island where we stayed recently on a VGK road trip. Last year, I think was the first time we stayed
December,
there.
Right?
And it's really nothing special. It's nice, but it's not like Manhattan. It's not like Chicago or LA. And we were
Nashville.
The fact that Gordo is sitting right there and it's where he's from.
Long Island native.
Yes. Anyways, we miss everything about it. And we won't have the fans with us right away. Hopefully we will before the end of the season. But Can't wait to do Golden Knights hockey again.
So some news yesterday and today, Lawman, as we take a look on the split screen here, the Golden Knights going through their practice here at City National. A lot of different things that have kind of been percolating over the last 24 hours or so, and we'll do them starting from most recent. It's no secret the Golden Knights, and there's some teams in this boat, bit of a cap crunch, but good news for them in that Nick Holden has cleared waivers, and that means can go to the taxi squad, and that salary of his does not count against the cap, so they're able to get where they need to go to be compliant.
Yeah, I think 1.1 million of his, or 1 million of his 1.7 million counts, but that 700,000 gives them the relief they need to get under 81.5, and so really a whole bunch of benefits there. Number one, they don't lose Nick Holden. He'll be on the taxi squad, and if someone gets hurt, that's a pretty good place to be in. That your first recall is Nick Holden, and the general managers in the NHL will always tell you need 10 defensemen to win the Stanley Cup. To go that long into the season, to get to play the regular season. This year it's going to be compacted, but then to play 20. What's the minimum you could play to win the Stanley Cup? 16, but to play an extra 16 to 28 playoff games, which are way harder to play than regular season games, the wear and tear, you need those bodies on the blue line. So now they've got, their top five. You would have Pietrangelo, McNabb, Theodore, Martinez, Whitecloud, and then now Holden's on the taxi squad. So I'm guessing, Haig or Coughlin would draw in for that number 6 spot. But then you still have one of those guys. You still have Holden, Bischoff, Dahlstrom, Jimmy Schultz. You've got depth in that area. Really important. So you're cap compliant, and you're cap compliant while extending the contract or adding the contract of Robin Lehner, an elite goaltender, keeping Marc-Andre Fleury and his $7 million cap hit, an elite goaltender, adding Alex Pietrangelo, $9 million when it was all said and done, right around there.
Yep.
So tremendous. Like this is you've had a really good offseason, and you're able to keep most of the band together. Yes, losing Schmidt, losing Stastny, Cody Eakin, those are really good people. You don't want to say goodbye to people like that, but the reality is every NHL roster changes every year, and you have to bring in young people. Vegas not only is bringing in young people, they're also bringing in the most prized free agent of all from last offseason, Alex Pietrangelo, and for my money, in the top 4 defensemen in the National Hockey League.
We had a chance, Gary, Saturday, just the broadcast crew, to be able to kind of take a look in at the scrimmage at T-Mobile. And Pietrangelo was a beast. I mean, unofficially, I think he was a goal and 2 assists, I think, for what it's worth. But phenomenal. All over the ice. Great look on one of the goals in the power play. Ripped home another power play goal of his own, but just in all 3 zones is terrific.
Yeah, when you have that opportunity to watch a player over and over again, it's been said to me this way, bad players have good games. And it's all about decisions, right? If you make the wrong decisions in a game, mistakes occur and it becomes a bad game. Well, some nights, a bad player, a player who lacks that really good hockey sense, the stars will align and they'll make all the right decisions. But over a period of time, that consistency of hockey sense and elite hockey sense takes the bad from the good and the good to the great. And Pietrangelo's hockey sense is off the charts. And that's what he's an effortless skater. He's a big guy, big shot, sees the ice, but it's the decision making. Time and time again, he makes the right decision, and that's what makes him so special. And now after you watch a guy play, and we've seen him in camp, all of these, it's different when they're on an opposing team and you don't see them all the time. I think for fans, you watch Alex Pietrangelo over his first 5 to 10 games, and you're going to see, it's going to become apparent to you, he never makes the wrong decision. He makes the right decision every time. Where to be with his body, where to put the puck, when to shoot, when to pinch, when not. It's like he's going to grade out at 95% all the time. And we've started to see that in camp, and it just and of course, I always wait for Shane Knighty for his little pearls, because he is a real student he's a student of the game, but even more so, and you know this better than me, Dave, of defensemen. Okay. I'm sure during breaks and intermissions and stuff, when we're doing a game, he will say to you, "Boy, this guy's been really good," or "That guy's struggling," and then why? Well, really early on when Shea Theodore got here, Shane looked at us and said, "Everything with his head up." The other night during the scrimmage, he whacked me. Well, he kind of didn't whack me, but he kind of signaled, gestured to me. Gesticulated? Gestured?
Gestured.
Gestured, yes.
Gestured.
He does everything with his head up. And that's the same, talking about Pietrangelo. And it makes him, it makes them different than everybody else.
Yeah. And that's the one thing. And you mentioned about Theodore and now Pietrangelo. One of the things he said about Shane said about Shea, was his ability to make everything, all plays with his head up, gets his hands away from his body, his ability to move the puck. There's a reason that Pietrangelo signed the richest free agent deal this offseason, right? That's how coveted he was. He signed the richest one. Torrey Krug, by the way, who's basically taking his spot in St. Louis, signed the second richest one. But their ability here, the one area, Gary, that, if you looked at it, especially the first year or two, the defense was kind of by committee, right? You can see Theodore starting to grow as an elite defenseman. They didn't have someone in the top 3 or 5 in the league as a defenseman, a stud number 1, and now they have that with Pietrangelo.
Well, and they have two, because Shea Theodore has grown. So, like, NHL.com ranked the top defense in the NHL. They had Pietrangelo at 4, and they had Theodore at 14. I would put Theodore at 11, and I would put Pietrangelo at 3, or in the top 3. And the Athletic did their tiers, where they tier all the players in the NHL, and they had Vegas had 5 players in the top 2 tiers, which was I believe second among all NHL teams, and Theodore and Pietrangelo were in that group. So Vegas lost to Washington. John Carlson was a difference maker for the Capitals on the blue line. Big shot, really good on the power play, gets the puck out on the penalty kill, blocks shots, is physical in his own zone. The next year, the Blues won. Who was it? Alex Pietrangelo has that real elite stud number 1 guy. Last year, Tampa, Victor Hedman. Just look at that trend. Vegas, and no disrespect to Shea, he's going to be a Norris Trophy candidate. He's going to play for Team Canada in the Olympics. He's just not there where Alex is yet, and he's going to get there. And I think playing with Alex is going to, it will be interesting. We'll use NHL.com's rankings, 4 and 14. Where will they be after playing together for a year?
Yeah. And I'll be interested to see how often they play together. Those two guys.
Yeah.
What a luxury that's going to be for Pete DeBoer, Ryan McGill, who runs the defense and company.
I phoned Randy Carlisle, who won the Stanley Cup with the Anaheim Ducks, with Scott Niedermayer. Rob Niedermayer was on the team, but he's a forward. Scott Niedermayer and Chris Pronger, 2 of the best defensemen of their era. He had them together. He played Niedermayer with Francois Beauchemin, and he played Pronger with Sean O'Donnell. That was our top 4. And then he had some other guys that kind of filled in. Kent Huskins, Joe DePenta. I'm missing somebody else. There was one other guy. Anyways, but the top 4 played most of the time. Yeah. And then he said, if we needed a goal late, I put them together. If we needed to defend late, I put them together. And I said, did they like playing together? He goes, they didn't care. They just wanted to be on the ice. And it's interesting, like that type of guy would not. I don't care who's with me, just so long as I'm out there, because they're going to do a lot of the work. Alec Martinez has really supported Theodore, and I think that will continue. Braden McNabb, this will be interesting. He played with Nate Schmidt. He's about to play a lot with number 7, Pietrangelo. It'll be fascinating to see what this does for Braden McNabb in his game.
Our training camp coverage, of course, brought to you by Martin Harris Construction as the Golden Knights closing in on the season opener at T-Mobile on Thursday night against the Anaheim Ducks. Thanks for tuning in today on all of our social media channels, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. We encourage you to send in your questions. Also let us know on VGK Worldwide where you are watching us from. Special hellos here. A Christian on Facebook watching in Germany just after 8 o'clock at night over there. Cindy on Facebook in Bend, Oregon. Cassandra, usually watching from Hawaii, today in Long Beach. Not a bad place to be either. Marcia on Facebook in Henderson tuning in. Suzanne Tuck, aunt of Alex Tuck, on YouTube in Binghamton, New York. So hello to Aunt Suzanne. Christian on YouTube in Orlando. Ava on YouTube in Brandon, Manitoba. And Brett on YouTube in Bakersfield, California.
Well, we've started a little bit of Canes. We've raised some Canes on Twitter, and I won't use some of the language because it's a little. Someone says, Carlos says, ... now I want Canes. Eric Simonis says, same. Summer Breeze says, me too, please, with a sweet tea. Brittany says, ugh, now I want it too. And then Carlos says, I blame these guys.
Yeah.
And then has a picture of you and I in front of the Canes.
Oh,
and then Eric says, maybe if we ask nicely, Gary Lawless and Dave Goucher will send some our way. Well, we won't do that.
That's not
But
happening.
there are how many locations, Dave?
13, it says.
13 locations.
Yeah.
You can
sample them all if you like.
sample them all.
Yep.
Yeah.
Combo boxes here. What a way. What a Tuesday it's been.
I should be a professional wrestler because that was a promo to end all promos.
McMahon. So the Golden Knights continuing to go through, getting set for the season opener against the Anaheim Ducks. Questions on Twitter, Gary. Question coming in. Winter in Vegas, 5 weeks of frozen misery. Wondering how much nicer winter is in Winnipeg, and if Gary misses it, this person wants to know.
I saw this earlier. Who's that from?
Well, I think it's from my neighbor.
When is the frozen misery? Like, we played golf last Friday.
I know.
There hasn't been any frozen misery.
No, it's not that bad. And I'll tell you, winter in Boston's no picnic, but Winnipeg's that's a whole different deal.
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty good here. The
They've
weather
had a mild
doesn't disappoint.
They've had a mild winter in Winnipeg, I'm told.
Have they?
Haven't been there for any of it. Normally, we'd have been there by now for a game or soon, coming soon. It is interesting. Every year we've gone back there. We have gone back since moving here to work with the Golden Knights. Every time we've gone to Winnipeg, or every season there has been a trip to Winnipeg when it has been bitterly cold.
So cold
Savage.
that you can snowmobile down the lake.
Dave snowmobiled in his dress coat.
It's a river. I tried to. And then my partner said, you cannot do that.
No.
And the guy we were with said, you can't do that, and gave me a snowmobile suit. But right down the river. That's how cold it is. It's frozen.
I always miss, so when we go to Winnipeg, I have my people, and I go off and see them. Shane has his people, and he takes Dave with, and the stories the next day from Shane and Dave are always,
oh, my goodness.
Shane's got a pretty fun crew. I do as well. We usually go out for dinner, but it's a little different.
Speaking of the outdoors, lawman, big news yesterday, the NHL, the Golden Knights, a part of it. In just their 4th year as a franchise, they're going to be part of one of the marquee events. Of course, no Winter Classic this year, but the NHL will do 2 outdoor games, and they will do them at beautiful Lake Tahoe. Golden Knights will take on the Colorado Avalanche February 20th. The next day, the Boston Bruins will take on the Philadelphia Flyers. We are trying, Gary, any possible way to get there safely. We're not sure if we're going to be able to. Have you been to Tahoe?
I have not.
I have not either. Even more reason to go. It's going to be on the Nevada side.
On the Nevada side, yeah.
Of Lake Tahoe. So, you might have seen it over the years at this beautiful Edgewood Tahoe Resort. They play the American Century Championship, kind of that Pro-Am every year, which is a blast in normal times at Lake Tahoe. First outdoor game for the Golden Knights to be a part of. All 4 teams involved are going to wear the retro, reverse retro jersey. So the Golden Knights with the ode to the Thunder and the Wranglers, the beautiful job they did on those jerseys. And I guess it's still to be determined, Gary, whether there might be some fans allowed to go. We're not sure yet. I will say, just kind of teasing, we'll have on our pregame on AT&T Sportsnet prior to the opener Thursday, a little earlier this morning, taped via Zoom, a little chat with Bill Foley. He is hopeful there might be some semblance of fans there. Now, you're still talking, that's 5 or 6 weeks down the road, that they might be outdoors, quite obviously, that they might be able to work something out where fans could take in what is just going to be an unbelievable setting to see an outdoor game.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that, but you interviewed Mr. Foley, and he
I don't think he does either, but he's optimistic, right? Like he's got more say than
he got more say than
us
us.
two dopes, to say the least. But outdoor games. So it's hard to believe. I didn't realize this. This will be the 31st and 32nd outdoor games for the NHL since, I don't know, were you at the Heritage Classic in 03? I think what I want to say.
Edmonton?
In Edmonton.
No, I was not.
Montreal
No.
and
It was cold.
25 below Fahrenheit.
Some guys still have red cheeks from that one. It did not. They got very rosy in that one. This game in Lake Tahoe, it's interesting. They're taking advantage, to a certain extent, the fact that this is a year where they can't have fans. They can't do the Winter Classic because they can't have fans in the building. So they have this idea of doing a Mystery Alaska. Some of you have seen the movie. If you haven't, you should, because it's on the list of top 20 hockey movies. Some might say top 10.
Miracle's number one. Press on.
Oh, David. David.
I was just seeing if you were paying attention. And if Shane's watching, he's going to slam his head against the wall.
Slapshot is number one. No offense
Number
to...
two? Hey, just press on.
Yeah. Well, you can't say something ridiculous and not expect
I'm an
a
American.
discussion.
I'm an American.
David.
Okay, go ahead.
Slapshot is number
Slapshot's good. I agree. It's a good one. Go ahead.
All right. You've distracted me now.
Finish your coaching.
So the setting where it is, there's a lake behind, there's the mountains behind, and it's going to be on a golf course. There are no stands. Most of the outdoor games have been in football stadiums, baseball stadiums, places where there are already stands there, and they put the rink on the ball diamond or on the football field. Well, this is different. This is the star of this game will be obviously the game, but the co-star will be the setting, and it is chosen because of this year where you cannot have fans. If you were ever going to do it, this is the year where you could do something. Even if you were to erect stands and put them around there, those temporary stands. They do that in the CFL all the time. I like to get the CFL in all the time.
Oh, here we go.
They do that for the Grey Cup every year, and they cost around anywhere from $125 to $175 a seat. So let's say $150 a seat. If you want to put 6,000 up, you're looking at $1 million, $900,000. And now if you had 6,000 seats that you could sell, you'd get pretty good bread for it. So you'd cover that million and some. But that's not this is a made-for-TV event, and right now the expectation is there will be no fans, but the mind does spin a little bit when you start to think about the possibilities.
Yeah, for sure.
Have
you covered any of the outdoor games, Winter Classics?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Which, just before I let you, I called two in my old job in Boston. The first one was at Fenway Park, which was fantastic. The Bruins won in overtime over the Flyers, which I think to that point was the only one that had gone to it. They'd only played a couple before that. But the funny part was the Bruins were down in that game 1-0 for the longest time. They got a power play fairly late in regulation. And I kept remember thinking, how bad is this going to be if you've got 38,000 people at Fenway Park and you're never going to hear the sound of the crowd if they don't score a goal? Yeah. They were down 1-0 until about 2.5 minutes left. And then Mark Recchi tied the game. And
how was the roar?
Unbelievable. Well, everything you'd hope, right? And then, it's funny, this stuff you remember, Gary, and then Patrice Bergeron set up Marco Sturm for the overtime goal, and they beat the Flyers in overtime. The other one was a bunch of years later in, I want to say 2016, 15, 16, at Gillette Stadium, home of the Patriots, and a whole different experience. Great setting. There were probably 65,000 people there, but it might have been one of the worst games the Bruins played all year. They get beat by Montreal, I want to say 5-1 or something like that. So that wasn't a lot of fun, but both great spectacles, to say the least. Obviously, I'm partial to the Fenway one just because of the result and also the history of Fenway Park. But this event, even potentially without fans, will be fantastic.
The game in Winnipeg, one of the games I covered was in Winnipeg, and the sun in the afternoon, while it wasn't extremely warm, it was blinding. They had to delay the game 2 hours because they had to wait for the sun to get past it was in the aisle, like half the players wouldn't have been able to see. So there would have been a huge advantage for the team going north. They had to wait for the sun to kind of get over the stadium a little bit before the lighting was proper and they could safely continue. And I was on air. I was part of the pregame show for that, and we had to tap dance for about 2.5 hours.
A long time.
Yes, it was quite interesting.
Well, we're gonna let you hear some of the sights and sounds here, and go sound full on training camp for the Golden Knights. Season opener coming up on Thursday night. Ooh, fantastic.
Guys, isn't this good?
Oh.
What? Gordon,
We're enjoying a
a
snack.
little warning, maybe.
Thanks for nothing.
Jeez.
Is it rude to chew with your mouth full? Or talk with your mouth full?
You can't choke on air.
This is great. This Raising Cane situation is phenomenal. There's not much left of Gary's. I'm nibbling away at mine.
David.
I'm just kidding. It's awesome. What did you have, by the way?
Oh, I had a couple of the
ribbon?
fries. I had one of the tenders. I tasted the Texas toast, and I used the cane sauce.
Fantastic. This is great. The food's getting in the way of,
Yes.
of us actually.
Let's get back to hockey.
All right. So I got a question for you. Alex Tuck and Robin Leonard spent a few days off the ice. Mm-hmm. I see Robin Leonard out there. Do we expect they're both going to be all set for Thursday? Right.
Well, so extrapolating from the cap maneuvers that the Golden Knights have made, putting Nick Holden on waivers, that would, now they could bring him off, but they risked him. They put him on waivers, and they could have lost him. The other 30 teams in the NHL all had a chance to claim him. So that makes me think everybody's going to be ready to go, because if they were going to have some relief as a result of injury, then they would have put one of those guys on LTIR, and that would have, plus they also put Oscar Dansk on waivers as well to assign him to the Henderson Silver Knights. So I do believe, or to the taxi squad. So I do believe that they'll have their full complement for Thursday night.
Good stuff. VGK Worldwide, Zach checking in on YouTube in New Zealand. It's 8:30 Wednesday morning.
Hockey day for Zach. Good stuff.
Living in the future.
Yeah.
He is. Good for you, Zach. Yeah, the NHL's closing in on. You're closer than we are on the opening of the season. Questions and comments. Ginger Rex 42 on the Twitch says, chicken. Tell me about it. Like, this is. I gotta cover this up. I don't have a ton of willpower. Gila Monster Hockey on Twitch says, you've made my lunch decision for me heading to Raising Cane's on Sahara.
All right.
That's good to know. Jimmy on Facebook asks, what's your favorite golf course to play in Vegas? Red Rock Country Club's at the top of the list.
Red Rock's at the top of the list.
And then I tell you what's right behind it is Southern Highlands, I think is off the charts good. Beautiful out there.
I love Southern Highlands.
place.
I would go TPC Las Vegas for my second favorite. It's really close to home. Southern Highlands is obviously, it's real special. It just comes down to preference at a certain point, right?
Yeah. There's so many of them. TPC Summerlin, quite obviously.
I won money though
there.
when we played Southern Highlands. I shouldn't forget that.
You did. That's right. Yes. I lost. I was annoyed I lost. I was winning all day and then lost.
Yes.
And Shadow Creek isn't terrible. That's not a bad spot to spend a few hours of your life. But yeah, Red Rock.
We had a great time
spot.
at Wolf Creek in Mesquite.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Really, it's like some of the coolest vistas that you could find on a golf course.
And if you went back and played tomorrow, you'd play a lot of shots different, right?
Oh, yeah.
The elevated tees, you're trying to do the math, you carry the one, and it's, I need all the help I can get on a normal day. VGK Worldwide, Facebook, Toby watching in Hamilton, Montana. Tim on Facebook is with us from Minnesota. Lawman, the Golden Knights made some moves yesterday in terms of their roster. They assigned 11 players to the HSK, the Henderson Silver Knights. As you see there, the ice is clear, and we're not sure if they're going to come back and do a scrimmage or not. We're still kind of waiting, to be honest with you, to find that out. So, but moves, sending some players to the Silver Knights yesterday. Among them, Jimmy Schultz, Jack Dugan. And on that list as well, Gary, and it might be worth explaining here because we've touched on this. Peyton Krebs and Caden Korzak, 19 years old, not under normal terms, in normal times, allowed to play in the AHL, but yesterday assigned to Henderson, and the reasoning for that and how that could potentially shake out.
Yeah, well, so the Canadian Hockey League, they have an agreement with the NHL that says, depending on your eligibility, once you're drafted, you could always play in the NHL. But if you have WHL, OHL, or QMJHL, Canadian Hockey League eligibility left, and you're under 19, I believe it's 19, or under 20, you have to play in the NHL or in the Canadian Hockey League. You're not eligible for the American League.
What's the reason for that? To keep teams from poaching players from junior to put them in the AHL? Is there
I think there's a bunch of reasons for it. I think that part of it is the CHL is the number one development and feeding group for the AHL and the NHL. And if you keep taking all their best players and putting them in the NHL, no fans will go to Canadian Hockey League games, and the Canadian Hockey League will close. And now you don't have a place to develop those players. So, Peyton Krebs last year and this year should, if he's not in the NHL, should play for the Winnipeg Ice and, help those people sell tickets and win games and have a thriving franchise. Because the Western Hockey League has not started, the agreement is not in effect at this juncture. That's our understanding of it at this point. So that means that Krebs and Korczak could, in fact, play. I think the Western Hockey League, their current plan is to start games on February 22nd, and I think the American Hockey League starts February 5th.
Correct.
So those guys could go play, 2 weeks of games with Henderson, and then, go to the Western League when they do, if in fact they do open, go there. Now, I'm not sure the Ontario Hockey League is going to start this year. They're in a different situation. And the government in Ontario has been a little more strict about what they're allowing and what they're not allowing, has all COVID related, obviously. So it will be interesting to see if some players that play for OHL teams, if they're allowed to play in the American League, but players that are owned by Western Hockey League teams or Quebec Major Junior Hockey League teams are not allowed to play in the American Hockey League. So there's, we'll see how all this sorts out. But long and the short of it, for the next couple of weeks, Krebs and Korczak are eligible to play, to train with Henderson, and when they start, to play with Henderson.
No scrimmage for the Golden Knights today, so we just have a couple of more minutes left. Their practice is done for this morning. A couple more things I wanted to touch on, Gary, in terms of Gary Bettman, Bill Daly, and others did a media call yesterday leading up to the NHL season starting tomorrow for some teams. And there was a lot of things that jumped out at me, but the biggest thing that jumped out was the statement that Gary Bettman made about, look, we're going to lose $1 billion with a B dollars this year in the NHL to play. Yeah. Owners would have lost less money by not playing. But kudos to everyone involved to find a way to make this work, and I think especially with the other major sports leagues also finding a way to play, that the NHL certainly had and did find a way to hopefully have this go off without as much of a hitch as they can.
Yeah, a couple notes. John in Oakville says, remember that Sid scored in the shootout in the first World Cup.
The puck was half covered with snow.
Right, and John in Oakville also says, Ontario's new stay-at-home rules start again on Thursday. Junior hockey is doubtful.
Yeah.
Jeff in Caledon says, nice beard. So...
No one said nice mustache for me in November.
No, they did not.
They said, please
not.
Shave. A month can't go by fast enough.
A couple of comments about what the NHL is attempting to do. It's easy to point fingers and criticize. I think that what we saw in the summer with the bubble, they put player safety first. I thought they did an excellent job of that, and they awarded the Stanley Cup. And that cost a lot of money. Yeah. And they're playing again now, and a lot of people are sort of, there's no nobility in pro sports. Well, it would probably be easier to just say, we're going to take a knee. We'll see you next fall. I don't think that would be good for the league. I don't think that would be good for franchise value, and there's all kinds of stuff that goes into that. But you can't embarrass yourself either. And the work that the NHL has done, to put in contingency plan after contingency plan to give themselves an opportunity to make this happen. I just have to applaud them. I have to applaud Commissioner Bettman, Bill Daly, all their people, Bill Foley, he's going to write some checks. It's as simple as that. And it's, the players are getting the lion's share of their salaries. I don't have a problem with that. It's what was bargained. It's what they agreed to. This is going to be very unique, and it's going to be. Don't be surprised if there's supposed to be a game on a Saturday night and news comes out that it's not going to be played till Wednesday, or they're going to go away for a week and then they're going to come back. Like, those things I've already seen the Dallas Stars,
Yeah.
Get shut down for a stretch, and their schedule has been rejigged. The NHL proved to be patient and nimble this summer, and they're going to need that, I think, again to get this season all played.
They have built in another 7 or 8 days into the schedule in case there are postponements, and if you paid any attention to any other major sports, the chances they're going to hit bumps in the road are pretty realistic as they move forward.
Yeah, and could they reduce the schedule? At some point in time and say, okay, we're not going to get in 56. We're going to make it 54 or 48 or Steve Patsahatris, who is the schedule guru for the NHL, there's not one matrix on the walls in his office. There's maybe 30, with a contingency plan for if each team got into trouble, and they'll flip on the fly as they move forward.
And the other thing that Gary Bettman touched on was the NHL protocol around COVID is 213 pages.
Yeah.
He said this is not just a document that we put out as guidelines. It's a document he expects to be followed right to the very letter of that document in terms of social distancing, in terms of masks, at all times, obviously, except when not playing or certain restrictions on when you're not going to have them. But how strict they're going to have this, you mentioned it, Gary. There's been issues in Dallas. They're not going to play until January the 19th. The other side of it is there are 3 teams that are going to start the season with some semblance of fans: Arizona, Florida, and when the Stars start in Texas, they're going to have some level of fans. Columbus and Pittsburgh could be not far behind from that, but which begs the question, could, here in Vegas, could the Golden Knights at some point have some percentage of fans? It's so strange to go in that building, to not have, in that building of all buildings, and not have anybody in it for games.
I will say this. If anybody can do it safely, my belief is that Kerry Bubolz and Todd Pollock and the Golden Knights organization, if they have a plan and the governor or whoever says that plan is safe, all they can control is the execution. They will control the execution. They would do an excellent job. I'm not lobbying for the governor to do anything. I think that they'll come together and they'll find, hopefully at some point in time, there's a safe path, and they'll go that way. But this is, again, like I don't believe in saying you're doing this right and you're doing this wrong. I think everybody should be trying to do their best, and I believe that's what's happening.
Yep, keep everyone safe.
Yep.
Well, the Golden Knights, as we said, Thursday night, they'll start the games for real at T-Mobile. A couple of final hellos before we wrap it up. Hi again from Mr. KB on Twitch in London. A lot of overseas representation here, and a lot of Canadian ones as well here today. Sebastian on Facebook saying good evening from Germany, and Jolene on Facebook from Northern British Columbia. All right, that's going to wrap it up for us. The Golden Knights have wrapped up their practice for the day, and we thank all of you for watching on all of our social media channels. Again, here's to you, our friends at Raising Cane's, for the snacks, the free beverages. This is unbelievable. Fantastic. Too good to be true.
If we weighed that box and that box, this box is heavier. So is this box, unfortunately, but that's another topic altogether.
Great stuff. All right, thanks for tuning in. Dave and Gary wrapping it up here from City National on Training Camp Bulletin, presented by our friends at NextGen. We'll talk to you next time.